welcome to the Icon Church Leadership Podcast. My name is Ilona, I'm the Operations Director at Icon. I'm here with Justin Anderson, our lead pastor, and we are in Season 3 on Leadership Reentry. Again, we're doing this podcast because we believe that investing in leaders is what makes the church thrive. And so this whole season is about equipping our leaders to think about the way that they're going to re-enter this new normal that we have in our world today. And so we spent the first episode thinking about how we assess our own health. And today we're going to be talking about how we assess our readiness for our work.
Yep, because we are not asking these questions in a vacuum, right? So when we ask, am I healthy or am I ready? It begs the question, am I healthy for what? Am I ready for what? So am I healthy enough to go for a jog? Sure. Am I healthy enough for a marathon? Not even a little bit. So the for what question is a really important question that we have to ask ourselves. And so as you guys did the health assessment over the last week, and I know you all did that, great job. Now as we take kind of a readiness assessment, we do need to set our eyes forward a little bit to go, okay, what is this reentry season going to bring for us, right? Like what is the work going to be like that I have to then be prepared for? So most of you, or many of you that I've spoken to, have not yet experienced huge changes in your leadership. I mean, maybe you've moved from in-person meetings to Zoom meetings, whatever, but the nature of your work hasn't changed a lot. It seems like, and I'm no prophet nor the son of a prophet, but it is likely that there's going to be some big changes here in the next quarter or two. And so we need to be able to assess, like, am I healthy enough for what's coming? Mm-hmm. Am I ready for what's coming?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we are going to be spending today specifically talking about that individual readiness while also acknowledging, yes, you're going to need to think about organizational readiness. And that's actually what season, or in this season, episode 6 is going to be all about.
Yep. So, and before we can get to organizational readiness and health, we need to do that personal diagnostic work for ourselves. And so, in order to do that, we do want to look forward to what some of those leadership challenges might be. And I want to give you a couple of categories. This is by no means exhaustive, and you need to do the work of understanding, like, what could this look like in my leadership capacity, whether that's at home, church leadership, community group, icon group, or in your business world, your work. But a couple of kind of big categories that we'll work with. One is organizational growth, right? So is your business going to kind of be pivoting towards, like, hey, this has been a really slow season because of all the coronavirus. We need to grow. We need to do some new customer acquisition. If that's in your community group or your ministry leadership, hey, this is time to welcome new people. What's that going to require? Maybe family growth. I don't know what quarantine's been like for you. Maybe you're looking forward to some family growth. Yeah, not for her. But for you, perhaps, there's going to be some family growth. So organizational growth. Second is organizational health, right? Likely your group or your organization has been spread out and everyone's dealing with fallout of the quarantine. And so as you come together, maybe you go, man, before we can start doing new customer acquisition or organizational growth, we need to assess the health of our organization. We need to get the team back together, to get the team on the same page. That's going to be a different challenge. Third, possibly as you look at the market and what you're doing in that market, you think, man, I need to narrow my focus. We need to kind of right size what we're doing, kind of just build some focus into what our organization, our business, our community group is doing and not doing. And so there's going to be some pruning that happens in this next season. So those are kind of big categories. Possibly, probably some of you are dealing with other things, but having an understanding of what do I need to be healthy for, what do I need to be ready for, is going to help you in that preparation process.
Before you get to any of that, you have to focus on the self, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You can't, you're not going to be the kind of leader that can do any of that stuff for your group until you're prepared yourself. So we want to stay focused. Don't get ahead. I know from a lot of leaders, it's easy and tempting to kind of jump ahead to, okay, what does my organization need? What does my business need? What does my group need? Stop. Ask yourself first, what do I need? Do that work first and we'll eventually get to your group.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk through some of the categories for readiness, ways to think about what it would look like to be ready. So the first one we're talking about is the fact that to be ready to re-enter, you're going to need energy.
Yep. And I think that for a lot of us, this season has been kind of strangely fatiguing, right? Like we've been home more than we've ever been before. We've had probably less to do, and yet we are so tired, right? So we want to be able to think about like, are we going to be requiring the kind of work ahead that's going to require us to have that physical energy, right? Let's be prepared for that. You got to know what game you're playing in order to know how to prepare, right? So we preparing to play some basketball, or we preparing to play some bocce ball. Two very different training regimens,
really different.
right? You got to know.
Do you train for bocce ball?
I do. That's why I'm so good. So you're gonna need energy. So for instance, if you are gonna be focused on organizational growth, you're gonna need physical energy. That is a grind that you're gonna have to be ready for physically. Yeah. So as you have done your physical health assessment and you've kind of gone, man, I haven't been working out, I haven't been sleeping great, man, we need to fix that because that organizational growth goal is going to require the grind of sales, the grind of pounding the pavement, the grind of new people and all of that. So that connecting what you're doing to the type of readiness and the type of preparation is going to be super important.
Right, so we're going to need energy, but you're also going to need creativity because you're going to have to think, especially in a world that none of us have ever lived in before, in the midst of pandemic, you're going to need creativity to think outside the box.
Yeah, and that's where we want to tie that to the mental and emotional health, right? Mm-hmm. If you're feeling depleted and mentally kind of foggy, relationally broken, you're not going to have the necessary creativity to be able to look at your organization and bring to it the kind of emotional mental energy that it's going to need.
Absolutely.
For some of us, creative process doesn't take a ton of energy. For a lot of us, it does. And so to the degree that you're going to need creativity for this next season, and that's something you're going to have to assess, that has a direct tie to, okay, where is my mental, emotional, relational state, and that assessment you've done in that section, right?
Right, absolutely. And so then the last one, so we've talked about energy, creativity, but then also you're going to need to be ready. You're going to need a sense of purpose outside of just your work.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be one of the most challenging pieces for, especially if you lead an organization, right? You lead a team, you're a small business owner, you lead a community group, right? And you're at the top needing to kind of set the pace. Mm-hmm. One of the most important things that all organizational leaders are going to have to do is do a really honest assessment of where they're at and what lies ahead. And the only way we can be honest about what is and about what needs to be is if we have that kind of posture of humility as we look at our organization. And that posture of humility can only come when we are in a spiritually good place. Mm-hmm. To the degree that we're dealing with idolatry of our business or idolatry of success or idolatry of the trappings of success or the optics of it, we will not be able to rightly assess what's happening in our organization and then be able to kind of humbly pivot, prune, change the way we need to, right? Because we're going to have all kinds of idolatry and sense of self wrapped up into it. So as you assess the physical, kind of your physical health, that's going to also be an assessment of your physical readiness for what the work that lies ahead. As you assess your mental, emotional health and see gaps there, you need to understand that is going to affect your readiness to do the creative work of leadership. Yeah. And then as you assess your spiritual health, that you have to understand, that is going to have a major impact on your readiness to be honest about where your business is, about where your group is, and the changes that need to be made from that.
Absolutely. And so what we want to offer you today is essentially a frame to think about how you might assess some of those questions for yourself. And so the frame today is what, so what, now what? So as we think about the what, again, none of this is in a vacuum. We're thinking about what am I ready for what? So what am I trying to address? Why is that an important question?
Yeah, and I think we want to be aware of what our organization needs or what our group needs or whatever leaders, our family needs, and to be able to assess, like, okay, what is the thing? Let's name it. Again, as we encouraged you guys in the last podcast, write it down. Do the work of writing this stuff down and go, okay, what is the gap? What is the need? What is this next season going to bring? Describe it. Don't overanalyze it. Keep it simple. Stupid. No, that wasn't for her.
Okay.
Keep it simple, because you can overanalyze this stuff. You know what it is. You know what the problems are. You know what the next season is going to require. Name it, right? So, for instance, if you know, like, hey, our organization needs to focus on health, right? Like the health of our team, making sure everybody's in a good place, the systems are healthy, all of that. You're going to need relational energy for that. Like, that's going to require a ton of relational energy to be able to manage the personnel health of your group or your team or your family, right? So if your assessment of your own health has said, gosh, I'm relationally kind of tapped out right now, but you are identifying, I'm going to need to do a bunch of relational work, that's a problem that needs to get dealt with. So that's your what. I've got this gap between where I'm at relationally and where I need to be relationally in order to accomplish what we think we need to do.
Which brings us to that second piece of the so what. So now that I've named what's going on, how is that thing keeping me from my goal, my objective?
Right. So we got to assess, like, all right, that gap exists. Why is that gap a problem, right? So, for instance, if your organization needs to grow in this next season, you know what the grind of growth is, right? Like, that's a physical grind of just work, sales, marketing, expansion. It's a grind just to do that work. And so, if you're feeling physically fatigued and you're not sleeping well, just know, like, we've got to make some changes. We've got to make changes to our rhythms, to our rule of life. We've got to be able to close that gap so that we're better prepared for what lies ahead.
And that brings us to the last one, the now what, where you really specifically get into what do I need to do as I move forward? Or what did I maybe start doing in the past couple months that needs to shift as I anticipate the future?
Yeah, and I was just saying a moment ago that the kind of organizational assessment, the defining, okay, who are we, what are we doing, is what we're doing the right thing, do we need to pivot, do we need to prune, is going to require humility. And it's going to require, kind of that spiritual health in order to be the kind of humble leader that can own, hey, we're not good at this and we need to get better, or we're not good at this, we need to change, right? So that requires steps to take. So whether it's physical, it's emotional, or it's spiritual, we need to then make a plan to address that particular issue. So if it's physical, let's work on figuring out sleep and working out and having a rhythm of when we get up and when we go to bed and managing our physical bodies. If it's emotional and relational, it's doing that check-in process. It's pruning relationships if necessary. It's leaning into healthy relationships where possible. And then if it's spiritual, again, we keep going back to a rule of life, but there's a reason for it. It's super valuable and really powerful way to shape us and our spiritual lives. So, very simply, again, keep it simple. Are you praying? Are you reading your Bible? Do you have time set aside, even 15, 20 minutes of focused, undistracted, no phone, no people, really good kind of centering on the Lord time? Because if you don't, there's no chance you're going to be spiritually healthy, and there's no chance you're going to be prepared to be honest about the failures and weaknesses in your organization, and you're going to keep walking blind into the future. So do the work that's required. Identify the what. Identify the so what. What is the gap? Why is this going to be a problem? And then write down, okay, how do I solve? What's the now what? And we can only give you kind of generalities because everybody's situation is so unique, but you're smart enough. You have the tools to figure this stuff out, but you have to work the process.
Absolutely. So we would encourage you, go to iconchurch.org/leadership podcast, get the show notes, and do that process. Figure it out, name it for yourself, so that you really can enter this next season ready to engage whatever you need and whatever your organization needs.
Let me say one more thing, because we're not quite to 15 minutes yet. I care so much about leadership and you as a leader and you leading your organization. And I'll just tell you this. You're going to probably feel, or if you're not already feeling overwhelmed, you're going to feel overwhelmed moving into this next season. Taking a little bit of time now to prepare yourself is going to save you so much time in the future. If you can just kind of rightly orient yourself to who you are, where you're at, and what you have to do, man, it's going to save you so much energy and time and failure and weeping and gnashing of teeth down the road.
Wow, that escalated a lot.
Maybe I am a prophet.
Oh, all right.
But
so
it will save you so much time and better prepare you to be a leader in this crazy, unprecedented season.
Whole new world.
Whole new world. I told her I wouldn't sing the Aladdin song.
Everyone's disappointed now. All right, so wherever you're getting this content, again, go to iconchurch.org/leadership podcast, get those show notes, do the work, and then wherever you're listening to it, rate it, subscribe to it, share it, help other leaders around you really get ready for this next season, and we'll see you next time.